Hola. Jim, tu audio no funciona. No, yo no puedo escucharte.
Oh, how about now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Operator error, yes. So welcome, everyone. I see we have a smaller group, and so I'm guessing because it's a puente, huh, and people are taking it off. But I'm curious, what is special about today or tomorrow in Spain? What is the holiday about?
Today is just Sunday.
Well, what about tomorrow? Tomorrow's the puente, right? Tomorrow's the holiday?
Yes, is the day of the, I don't know, the Hispanity or something like that.
Sí, es el Día de la Hispanidad. Se celebra la llegada de Cristóbal Colón a las Américas.
Ah, ok, también aquí.
Y suele haber además un desfile militar y demás del ejército que este año han cancelado por la COVID.
Ah, ok.
Pero aquí en San Francisco mañana se celebra como Indigenous Peoples Day, Día de los Indígenas.
¿Pero oficialmente es eso o solo en San Francisco
Por lo
o
menos
California?
En San Francisco.
San Francisco.
I think nationally it's still
Columbus Day, we call it Columbus Day. It's also a holiday here tomorrow.
En Perú también tenemos mañana Día de la Raza, se llama.
Ah, qué bien.
Ah, ok, muy bien.
Festivo.
Oficialmente es este nombre, ¿no? En
¿Cómo?
Perú. Oficialmente, legalmente es este nombre en Perú, es de las razas, ¿no? La raza.
Sí, sí.
Ah, muy bien.
¿Pero de qué raza? ¿De qué raza?
Las razas, así en general.
Ah,
La
ya.
diversidad cultural.
Ajá.
No solo
Good.
Colón. Él era italiano, ¿no? No,
Sí.
Well, I mean, some people says that he was Italian. And other people says that he's from Catalonia. Other people say that he's from a small village in Guadalajara.
In other words, we really don't know.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Probably he was from
many
there.
people want to have the credit, because it attracts
The only
people.
thing that we know for sure is that he got there to be the head of the expedition because he was shagging the Queen Isabel II.
Well, yeah, it was financed by the Spanish crown at that time.
Yeah, I think after he asked 3 times, right? He asked at least once, maybe twice, and then the 3rd time they had the money and they gave it.
Yes, that is the power of the insistence.
Very good. You know, I really am very reluctant to connect Christopher Colon with the Buddha, but the Buddha, it's said that when he was asked 3 times, then he would usually say yes on the 3rd time.
On 3rd time, all right.
For instance, when he was asked, will you allow women to be fully ordained? In the first 2 times he said no, and then on the 3rd time when his aunt said it, then he said yes.
Yes.
So similar. And just a little logistical thing. So you all, I guess, obviously you guys saw that the code had changed, huh, for Zoom starting today. Did some people go to the code last week and it didn't work and they had to mark? Okay.
Well, I use Dana.
So you didn't have to put in a new code, Luis, huh? It was the
DANA.
Yeah, that's the password.
The password. Yeah, no, I just used the one that was sent in the email.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
The meetup, yeah. Very good. Okay, well, if everybody's willing, we can do a meditation. Do a 30-minute meditation.
I think the Hopi poem might be apropos given in the... Okay.
I thought today we would try again in the last 10 minutes or so, or you could do it whenever you want. A more open practice, awareness of awareness, which I'll give a little bit of instructions when that time comes. But again, just being aware, knowing what you know or what you're experiencing. And so maybe we use sounds, maybe we use bodily sensations, and just not so much connecting with the bodily sensations or the sounds, but more connecting with the fact that you know that you're hearing, you know that you're feeling, you know that you're experiencing. And it's a more open awareness. But if you want to stay with the breath or stay with something more narrow, feel free. But at about 20 minutes, I will offer some new instructions for the awareness of awareness, or the open awareness. And maybe I'll add one other thing that kind of leads to the topic that I hope to talk about. And that is, and maybe it connects to the Indigenous People Day or the Indigenous anything, is connecting to our true essence, which in some traditions is the unnamed, right? It's just being, it's just existing, experiencing. And I think with the awareness of awareness, sometimes we can just kind of settle into a moment or two of just simply being, not being a meditator, not being a Spaniard, an American, a Peruvian, or nothing, just being. Okay, so we shall begin. Find yourself a comfortable posture, one that where the body is erect, the back is straight, but yet you are comfortable. Sometimes we call it a noble posture. And I think with practice, the body starts to become accustomed to being in this posture. And it can send a message to the brain that it's time to settle down, calm a little bit. So maybe trying to feel your posture, feel your sitting body. Maybe noticing the weight of the body, how the body makes contact with a chair or a cushion or the floor. This embodied presence where we practice yoga, right? The joining together of the mind and the body. Maybe just being open to whatever arises in the body. And if there are thoughts, strong thoughts, don't fight with them. Let them play out. But if you get to a nice stopping point, then try to let that go and come to the body. Bring the attention to the body. You might have noticed already that the body is breathing. does this all by itself. We don't have to tell it to breathe. And so for the first part of our practice today, you can use the body as an anchor or a home base to return to each time you notice that the mind has been thinking, or you could come to the breath. And if the breath, you have several options. You can follow the entire breath, or maybe you pick a spot where the breath is easy to follow, easy to feel, maybe even pleasurable, pleasant. So that might be the belly, the movement of the belly, movement of the chest, or at the nostrils where the air passes in and out. And just gently experiencing or feeling your breath in one of these places, and then coming back as the mind does what it does, which is to think, wanders off, just bring it back. And if for whatever reason the body or the breath, if neither are comfortable for you today, this moment, you can also use hearing, the process of hearing or listening as an anchor. Just keep coming back to a receptive hearing. It's also a very useful portal or door to awareness of awareness, this receptive hearing. And of course, if you'd like to use labels to support your practice, you can do that. Inhaling, exhaling. Maybe when there's thought, thinking, returning, inhaling. Or if you're feeling the body, you could just say feeling or sensing. Just a useful tool, and if labeling starts to get in the way, you can just let that go as well. if you are still experiencing lots of thought, insistent thought, you might explore feeling the body to see if you can find some sensation in the body, maybe emotion that might be connected to the thought, might even be fuel for the thought, or as a result of the thought. And if you find something, just feel it, experience it, and notice if the thoughts pass away, if they go away for at least a bit. Each time we notice we're thinking, that's a moment of awakening. It's a moment to celebrate, not to criticize ourselves or judge ourselves. Then we're in choice. We can let those thoughts go and come back to our chosen anchor. So if you are willing and would like to shift gears a little bit, we can move to a more open awareness, sometimes called awareness of awareness or natural awareness. So we let go of the object, the anchor we've been using, and broaden or extend the awareness to include everything that might arise, but not fixating on any one thing, just being aware of what we're aware of, or that is, being aware that we are aware of what arises. And there's many ways to get into this. One that I like is to try to be receptive of sounds, of hearing, listening, and feel your body or be aware of your body at the same time. So this requires, really extending or opening up the awareness. Another way is to imagine that you are looking. You can either open your eyes and actually look, or just look into the back of your eyelids. And then allow the awareness to extend from there, knowing you're looking. And not labeling, not even thinking about any object, not fixating on any object, just knowing. And you can ask yourself, what am I aware of right now? What am I knowing right now? Or better, maybe, what is being known? Take the I out of it. What is being known in this moment? Hearing, maybe. Sensing, feeling. Just playing with it. It's just a practice. It's just a tool. And if thinking arises, you just know that. Knowing that there are thoughts. Knowing that there is thinking. Not judging. Being curious. Good. So wherever your mind attention might be right now, let's come back to the body, rejoining the mind and the body, creating that embodied awareness, that embodied presence. So maybe you might notice the points of contact again. You might notice different sensations in the body than before. Maybe the belly, the movement of the belly, whatever brings you back into your physical form, into the body. And then maybe imagining or actually feeling the area of your heart center. We have more neurons in and around the heart than we do around the brain. Very sensitive area. Feeling that and then remembering, recalling the goodness of our practice, how there is probably no better way, nothing we could do that would serve us more fully, more completely than this practice. Practicing not only for our own well-being, but the well-being of those around us, our loved ones, our family, our friends, and all beings. And then imagining or sensing your entire physical form and maybe even a little beyond into your energy field. And imagining you can extend your energy to include everybody on this call today. Also practicing honoring the goodness of their practice as well. And imagine we can extend out this goodness in all directions. And then when you hear the sound of the bell, just noticing whatever arises in the mind or in the body. Not judging it, just noticing. Thank you all, everyone. Jay in Madrid. I like your backdrop on your wall. That looks very nice. I had or have a little, I guess, a theme that I wanted to touch on today. I know most of you are not in the United States and therefore not fully aware maybe of what's happening here politically, but we are in the process of an election. Here in America, it seems to go forever, unlike in Spain, where I think it's like 2 weeks of campaigning. Here in the United States, it's like a year or more. But we're now down to the last 3 weeks, and it's getting quite intense. And there's a lot on the line, I think, for us here. As scary as I've ever seen it in my life. But what came up for me and what kind of bumped up against or reminded me of practice is one of the three poisons, the second of the three poisons, which is hate, right? I encounter people who, they really hate the other side of the political aisle, right? It's like, even my daughter, who, I love dearly, and I'm glad she's, we raised her to have what I think are very important values, but man, she just hates the other side, the right, like Trump and stuff. And what's funny about hate and resentment and stuff is that the person who has the resentment is the one who suffers, and the person you resent, they don't even know you resent them. I mean, maybe if it's a close person, you can get the message across, but to hate, for instance, a political figure who doesn't even know you exist, really, you're going to suffer. That person is not going to notice a thing, right? They could be on the beach having a drink, and they're just living large, and you're suffering. And clearly in Buddhism, it's one of the three poisons. It's one of the three causes of our suffering is hate, ill will. And what it reminded me of is, like, how do we get to a place where we don't feel this hate? And I believe that one of the avenues, one of the paths, is to be reminded that there are universal, you could say, characteristics that we all have that bind us. And not only humans to humans, but to other beings as well, right? And Monica and I, we watched this wonderful Netflix documentary. I highly recommend it, called The Octopus Teacher.
My Octopus Teacher.
My Octopus Teacher. I highly recommend it. It's not very long, an hour and a half, and it's about a middle-aged South African man who goes, he's going through kind of a midlife crisis, and he kind of finds his way, finds his purpose by freediving in the ocean, and he befriends an octopus. And it's his year-long relationship with this octopus. Now, for most of us, what we know about octopus is that they can taste good when you eat them, or whatever. But what is and so amazing about these creatures is how, at their essence, right, they're no different than us, really. At their essence is consciousness, is awareness, which we all have, right? And also is, a desire to survive, maybe even a desire to be happy in a way. There's one scene in there where the octopus is actually apparently like playing with fish. It's not trying to eat them, it's just playing with them, right? And and we all have an aversion to pain, and we have an aversion to those things that are unpleasant, right? And so with our practice, and I'm gonna read something out of the Yoga Sutras, and normally we just talk about Buddhism, but essentially they're very similar, right? The Hindu beliefs and the Buddhist beliefs are quite similar, and the Yoga Sutras from Patanjali are quite similar to the Eightfold Path. But I reminded of this as a video I was watching yesterday on non-dualism, Advaita, and he mentioned these first two lines, so I thought I'd read them. He says, well, it says, the Yoga Sutras, yoga is the cessation or the freedom of the fluctuations of the mind. Yoga is the cessation of the fluctuations of the mind. Line 2 is, then there is abiding in the true nature of the knower. Abiding in the true nature of the knower. And in Buddhism, you know, the nature and the knower, sometimes we might distill that down to emptiness, right? The third of the poisons, of the causes, is ignorance. And the main form of our ignorance is identifying with something, right? Which the root of the word identify is to be the same as. So we identify with being a Spaniard or being an American or being a white dude or, you know, whatever it is. And then we cling to this, and this can cause us to suffer. So in Buddhism, it's a little bit more about emptiness and about that there is no I, really. But without getting into that too much, because sometimes I think it's more accessible through the more yoga belief, Hindu belief of non-dualism, meaning that at our essence, or underneath all the chatter of the fluctuations of the mind, is an essence that is shared amongst all beings, you know, which maybe is consciousness, you know, maybe it's our instincts, maybe it's just awareness, experience. But with practice, and maybe you experienced it even today, when we can calm the fluctuations of the mind, when we can calm the thinking, even for a moment, we can have literally like a transformative experience of just stillness, which is our true essence, of just, you know, being. And, you know, the mind immediately adds words to it, tries to figure it out and all this kind of stuff, which is fine. But we can, with practice, realize or experience our true nature. And one thing I wanted to show you is how in the Buddhist teachings, this state, which we could call samadhi, or concentration, or calm concentration, is so integral in the teachings of the Buddha. So I'm going to try to do a share screen, which I always am nervous when I do this because I never know where I'm going to end up. But I'm just going to kind of show you how in the core teachings, samadhi, let's see. So for instance, here we go. So can everybody see Eightfold Noble Path on the screen? Is that there? Okay. So you'll notice how the eighth factor in the Eightfold Path is samadhi. It's this, here it's called right concentration, in Spanish, la recta concentración. It's not concentration like really hard concentration, no, sino que. It is a very relaxed concentration. It's a relaxed awareness. And you also notice how mindfulness, you know, this has now become a very common term in today's world, is also the seventh factor. So we have mindfulness, and then this can lead to this calm concentration where our true essence, or our true being, or our emptiness, however you want to define it, becomes obvious. You also see it. Let's see, how do I get this thing out of here so I can, I want to try to move the tab. I'm going to go to aggregates, but that's not where I wanted to be. I wanted to be, okay, in the 5 faculties, or the 5 virtues, or the 5 strengths. Okay, this is another Buddhist list. You'll notice that number 3 again is mindfulness, and number 4 is concentration. It's right there. Of only 5 of the strengths, 2 of them are related to our practice and related to this clear seeing things clearly. And then, interestingly, the 5th one in this list is wisdom. And the wisdom is seeing things as they really are, that we have this common essence with all beings, right? With each other, no matter where you are on a political divide, or no matter what species you are, we have this commonality. And then you also see it in the 7 factors of awakening, or the 7 factors of enlightenment. Wow. Number 6. Now here we start with mindfulness. This one's a little more detailed, a little more precise, where we start with that plena conciencia, atención plena, and then we go through the investigation, the energy, the rapture. These are things that the mind goes through. And then it reaches again concentration, samadhi. And after that, we have equanimity, just resting in awareness, or resting in our true nature, resting in our essence. So it's very much a part of the Buddhist teachings. And one thing that people, some stories, we have our stories, right? In fact, I'll go to the 5 aggregates real quick, just because I think it's important. So these are the 5. I left you guys. I forgot to share screen. So the 5 aggregates in the Buddhist teachings, everything is composed of these called aggregates, or heaps, skandhas in Sanskrit. So there's form, right? We got the form. And then there's Vedana, there's the feeling tone, which is the instinctual, pleasant, I want, not pleasant, I don't want, or maybe neutral, right? So we talk about this. It's also the second foundation of mindfulness. Perception, right? How we perceive. Now, this one is affected by our causes and conditions. And then there's mental activity, sankharas. This is the stories we make up, right? And then the final one is consciousness. So I bring that up because one of the stories that many people have, the sankharas, right, the mental formation, is that samadhi can only be achieved, for instance, in a long retreat, where you finally get the mind calm enough where then you can get a sustained period. But this isn't correct. We can have samadhi moments in our daily practice. You could sit for 10, 15 minutes at home, and you might have a moment or two of samadhi, of this calm concentration, where you can then be aware, you become aware of your true essence. And, the Buddha is said to have recognized that even a short break in the thinking can have transformative benefits, can change our life. Now the mind, it really just knows how to think. That's its job, is to think, and probably, and we become aware of this in our practice. Probably you notice that most of the time your mind is solving problems, right? It's trying to fix things. It's trying to improve things. It's worrying about things. And you might also notice that most of those problems aren't even real, or they're nothing you can do anything about, or there's something way in the future, or worse, something way in the past. This used to be one of my favorite mind activities, was to try to change the past, right? Some big decision I might have made 2 years ago, 10 years ago, or whatever, and my mind is still working on it. It's like, dude, it's over. You can't change it. It took a long time for me to finally realize I could not change the past, or my mind could not change the past. And this is part of our mindfulness practice, right? It's the third and the fourth foundation of mindfulness, to be aware of these sankharas, to be aware of these habits, these tendencies of the mind, to ruminate on something. And maybe your mind likes to worry about the future, likes to change the past. Like my mind loves to think about politics. You know, it makes speeches for Joe Biden, right? And you know, even in his voice. When I was on long retreat last year in Massachusetts, my mind was forming all these speeches for Joe Biden he wasn't even the candidate then, but I thought he was going to be, and in his voice, right? I thought I had some great ideas. This is what my mind likes to do. But it doesn't produce the best state of mind when my mind is doing this. And honestly, this is kind of interesting and maybe a little counterintuitive, but for me to feel the best, let's say, the most happy, the most joyous, the most free is when my mind is on neutral. And when I'm just aware and experiencing the present moment as it is, just the beingness of this moment, right? And I realized that with this approach, we can't get a lot done in life. It's true, you know. So we also have to think, we have to remember, we have to analyze, we have to investigate, we have to make decisions. I mean, one of my teachers in that long retreat, she said to me, she said, decisions agitate the mind. Decisions agitate the mind. And she's right. It's like, oh, should I do this? Or should I do that? Should I do this? Should I do that? That is very agitating. That does not create a sensation of joy and openness, right? The opposite. But so we need to be kind to ourselves. I need to be kind to myself and realize that sometimes I have to think, and sometimes I have to make decisions. I do find that if I make a decision, a big decision, and include my body, the decision is often a better one, right? It's more true for me. You know, feel my body, feel my heart center, feel my gut, you know, and if nerves come up or doubt or whatever, I know it. If I just try to figure it out, forget it. I can never really just figure it out with the mind. And for periods during the day, it's better to just turn that off. Turn it off, let them go, you know, and if you need to talk to your thinking mind, okay, we'll get to that decision later after the meditation, or we'll think about it later, no worries. Or you know, some people, I've even heard teachers say, you know, it's okay to, if you're sitting even and a thought comes to you that you think is pretty important, maybe just write it down. Stop your meditation, write it down. Now you don't have to think about it anymore, because the mind will be very worried about remembering that good idea, and so you might think it for 5 minutes, right? But if you just write it down, you know, maybe you can go on. And my experience has been, and I'll tell you, during this COVID has been a great opportunity for me to practice more, right? I've elevated or increased my daily home practice more than I ever have. And it has had really positive benefits where I have just felt more equanimous. You know, even though I'm very concerned, for instance, about the election here, I don't feel that hate. Back in 2004, we had a similar election in the United States. And I mean, I felt hate towards the other side, hate. And I was not good company. You didn't want to be around me, man. I would just grind you into the dirt until you said, okay, I agree with you, you know, or whatever. And I give the credit to a daily practice. You know, more is better. And then the more we can rest in our essence, in our true being, the better. It starts to really permeate our cells and we recognize it. And And then to bring it back around, it opens us up to compassion for those we don't agree with, for those who have hurt us even. And after all, Buddhism is a practice of compassion as well. In the Mahayana tradition, they consider it one of the two wings is compassion. And so when I recognize that their essence is the same as my essence, their sankharas might be different, their strategies of doing things might be different, their beliefs might be different, but at their core, they are the same. As well as the creatures that have 4 legs, or like this octopus had 2,000 little suckers on its arms, 2,000. And apparently its intelligence is just as much in the suckers as it is in its mind, in its brain. It's like a living, nervous system, or it's not a living, it's living, but it's like its nervous system goes right to these little suckers, and it feels and it transmits. And anyways, you got to watch the documentary. Okay, how we got for time? Okay, just one last thing I wanted to say. Okay, this is an important reminder for me, because I grew up at the tail end of the 60s, right? When 1970 came, I was 13. I was officially a teenager, right in February of 1970. And I remember my dad telling me, okay, you're a teenager now. Now you can go protest, you can do whatever. And what I interpreted in my brain is, okay, now I can smoke marijuana and take LSD and, stuff like that. Well, growing up in that era, these drugs were believed to open our consciousness, right? To open us up to our true essence, really. That's what we believed. But, it was, it was a big deal. It wasn't a small change in consciousness. It was quite large. This practice is not like that, okay? It's subtle, right? It's not going to be this big, what's the word I want to say? Not transformative. Transcendental. It can have a sort of transcendental sort of sensation, maybe from time to time in a long retreat, but more or less, it's just very subtle. The changes are kind of incremental and not always obvious. We could look way back and maybe we can see it. So I'm saying this only to moderate our expectations, right? It's kind of poco a poco, but it's seguro, it's for sure. It does happen. The more we practice, the more equanimity comes, the more connection to our true essence comes, the more compassion comes, and it's a little bit, Anna Monica, she's been with me for 10 years. She could tell you how terrible I was even 10 years ago compared to now. Slightly better, and it's a result of practice. And it's really not difficult. It can be quite easy. It's simple for sure. And that is, we just from time to time need to let go of our thinking. Just let go of that for a moment. No worries, mind, I'll be back. We'll think later. Don't worry. And then just feel like your body, or just feel presence. Feel like we did in the final 10 minutes of the meditation. Just feel awareness. Feel your experience. And that will drop you back into your beingness, into your essence, into your true nature. Anyways, okay, that's all. Yeah, I wanted to. So I did want to mention that it's the birthday of one of our lovely, wonderful teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh. Today is his birthday, and for those of you who are familiar with him, maybe you could just keep that in mind. He's still with us at 94 years old, living in Vietnam now, where he was at first a young monk. So yeah, today's his birthday. That's all I have. Is there anybody who would like to say something? If we have time, Anna Monica has a poem. But before, anybody like to say something? No? Okay. So you think yeah, you wanna share your poem? So we thought this also appropriate because of the Indigenous Peoples Day or La Raíz or Colón Day, whatever. It's all shared essence, right?
So parts of this poem have been shared a lot recently, or in posts that I've seen, but it's from the Hopi tribe, Hopi Nation, the elders, and it's called "We Are the Ones We've Been Waiting For." And it's really apropos to Buddhism because it talks about the stream, Sangha, and suffering, but in slightly different words. You have been telling people that this is the 11th hour. Now you must go back and tell the people that this is the hour, and there are things to be considered. Where are you living? What are you doing? What are your relationships? Are you in right relation? Where is your water? Know your garden. It is time to speak your truth, create your community, be good to each other, and do not look outside yourself for your leader. Then he clasped his hands together, smiled, and said, "This could be a good time. There is a river flowing now very fast. It is so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will try to hold on to the shore. They will feel they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. No, the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore, push off into the middle of the river, keep our eyes open and our heads above water. And I say, see who is in there with you and celebrate. At this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment that we do, our spiritual growth and journey come to a halt. The time of the lone wolf is over. Gather yourselves. Banish the word struggle from your attitude and vocabulary. All that we do now must be done in a sacred manner and in celebration. We are the ones we have been waiting for."
That's very nice. Wow. That's powerful. Well, thank you. Well, if you guys are willing, we can do a little metta meditation to end, a loving kindness meditation. And then for those who would like to interact with each other, I'm happy to form some small groups. Does anybody, before we do the metta, does anybody like to say anything or have a question? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, we had a chat comment that it's very challenging to see the goodness in Trump and his enablers. And yes, I agree. It's very hard. And at the same time, we can't let their confusion cause us to suffer, right? So we need to take care of ourselves, and metta is a very good way to do it. So when we get to the third group, you can maybe throw in Trump and his enablers if you want in that group, or if that's too difficult, somebody less triggering. Anyways, let's find again a comfortable posture. I often like to put my hands right on my heart center so I can really feel that area, feel my heart. So first, let's start with ourselves. Let's take care of ourselves in this moment, offering ourselves loving kindness. Bringing our attention inward into our heart center. May I be happy. May I be well. May I be safe. And may I live with ease. You know, these are some standard metta phrases, but feel free to use whatever works for you. Feel that sense of well-being. So now let's bring to mind those many millions of people now who have been affected by the coronavirus, if you're willing. And those people on the front lines, the doctors and nurses and technicians and clerks, those people in more challenging circumstances, maybe more crowded environments, so forth. Just if you can, imagining, bringing to mind these people, let's offer them loving kindness, goodwill, metta. May they be happy. May they be well. May they be safe. And may they live with ease. And now let's try the difficult person. So again, you could pick Trump or any other politician, I guess, that you just feel a resentment towards, or even time to time hate. Or if that's too intense, you know, maybe just somebody in your inner circle that hurts your feelings, feel a little resentment towards them. Try to imagine this person, these people. May you be happy. May you be well. May you be safe. May you live with ease. And finally, all beings in all directions, without exceptions, may all beings be happy. May all beings be well. May all beings be safe. May all beings live with ease. And finally, we'll dedicate the merit of our practice today, our Sangha, the teachings, to the benefit of all beings. Remembering, recalling that this is a practice of renunciation, of letting go, even letting go of the good. So as we share this with all beings, just keeping that generosity in mind. May all beings be happy and peaceful, healthy and strong, safe and protected. May all beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering, free from war and violence and discrimination, racism, and free from coronavirus. And may all beings find their path, or better, their true essence, discover their true essence and discover the interconnected nature of all things, how at our core we are the same, we are one. And may all beings be free. May all beings be happy. Thank you very much. I see Nacho. Nacho is Ayuso is that was your third group person, huh? She was the president of the Comunidad of Madrid, Isabel Diaz Ayuso. I admit I don't understand the politics in Spain, but it looks like a real mess, a real Leo. So thank you so much for this Sunday treat for me, which here, as you know, it's still kind of morning. It's just about noon. Good way to start the day. And I'm happy to form some small groups for anybody who would like to share with other Sangha members. And we will be here next week. And as a reminder, Madrid Meditation Meetup, that particular meetup page has lots of offerings throughout the week, most of them in Spanish. But I think Alberto is introduced a monk in an English one on Friday, although it wasn't on Zoom, it was on Jitsu or something like that. But anyways, if you check with the meetup, you can see others. Okay, I will put together some small breakout rooms. Oh, that's different. It looks different. There we go. Create. And if you don't want to do it, don't feel like you have to. People are kind of going and not. Okay, Mark. Oh, they're in there. Luis, are you trying to join? Luis, it looks like you're Oh, you got in. Fine. Oh, Graciela.
Yeah, that's me. It's just I saw about the discussion, and I am not interested in politics at all. That's why I'm gonna leave. I mean, in my chat room, there is people talking about politics things.
Oh, I see. Do you want to go in the other chat room and see if they're not talking about politics? I can.
Yeah.
I can move you there. Let's see.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Oh, we're still live.